Hey y'all, it's Shanice, and this is your weekly forecast for February the 16th through February the 22nd, 2026. This is a collective read, so I'm going to be focusing on the signs, the degrees, and the practical themes that usually show up for these transits that we are getting ready to talk about. So this week is intense, but it's also really clarifying. We have an Aquarius new moon that's a partial solar eclipse, and then we shift into Pisces season. We also have the Saturn and Neptune conjunction going exact in Aries this week. So the vibe is timeline shifts, emotional sensitivity, and reality checks around what's real versus what's imagined. And if you are new to this podcast, I always call out the degrees that are most activated because that's the fastest and easiest way to know if you're going to feel this week's energy or the astrology the strongest. So, who's most affected? Here's who's most likely to feel this week the loudest, especially if you have any personal placements: Sun, Moon, Rising, Venus, Mars, Mercury near these degrees that I'm about to call out. So the first set of signs or degrees is the fixed signs between 27 degrees to 29 degrees. That's Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. This is the eclipse activation zone for these energies. And these degrees can feel like sudden shifts, turning points, plot twists, closures, or a new direction you can't ignore. Now, the second set is cardinal signs around 0 degrees. I would say 0 to 7 degrees. That's Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This is where the Saturn and Neptune conjunction is going to hit at the very beginning of Aries, the first zodiac sign. And it's also the energy of the spring equinox. So this week can feel like a fresh start, a new beginning around something that's spiritual that you want to create more discipline around. And this is where, again, that Saturn and Neptune conjunction hits. So even if you don't understand what this transit means yet, if you have any placements between 0 to 7 degrees, you might feel this new era type of pressure. Now, it might not really start to manifest or make sense until like the spring equinox, which is in late March. So these conjunctions, especially generational planets like Saturn and Neptune, it's a bit of a Saturn is a personal planet, but it's also like generational. Like you usually have a group of people who have the same Saturn sign as you because Saturn moves slower. So these two energies take time to manifest. So this conjunction won't manifest like exactly on this day. It's something that will happen over time. So this new era, this new identity that you might be embodying or starting to understand and embody will start to make more sense over time. But this conjunction is like the energy that's catapulting that new identity or that new era. Now, the next group of signs are mutable signs around 9 degrees. So that's Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, and Sagittarius. This is the Venus and North Node conjunction in Pisces. With that Pisces Virgo axis, the South Node being in Virgo. So this can hit relationship choices, values, devotion, boundaries, and what you're truly saying yes to. And like I say all the time, if you do not know the degrees in your birth chart, that's okay. You can still listen to hear about the themes and see how it is manifesting in your life. Now, the big three themes for this week. This is a really active week this year. There's another week happening around July 4th this year that's pretty active. But this is one of the first weeks of the year that we are really going to feel the astrology and see it manifest. I don't even know how it's going to manifest on the global stage. We will see and talk about that next week. But the first theme is the Aquarius eclipse, and that's all about timeline shifts and future resets. This eclipse, or new moon in Aquarius, is not just new beginnings. Eclipses are more like course corrections, and Aquarius energy is about the collective, community, future plans, technology, social spaces, and what's evolving. So, practical translations for this energy, or this eclipse: a friendship dynamic might change in your life. A group or community situation becomes clearer. Your goals for the future gets rewritten. And you realize what you can't do the old way anymore. Now, a rule that I have personally for this eclipse, and any eclipse honestly, is don't force certainty. Observe what changes and let it unfold. Now, I hear some astrologers saying, we manifest all the time, so it's no problem manifesting with an eclipse. Personally, I manifested with that Scorpio and Taurus eclipse energy starting, I think, in like 2021. And I always say manifesting using your spiritual practices, whether that's prayer or if you're into candle work or whatever, during an eclipse, is kind of like working with the Moldavite crystal. It's transformative, it's unpredictable, it's really going to rock your world. So I am more of like grounding, being more practical in eclipse season. I learned my lesson in 2021. That was like from 2021 to 2023. I learned my lesson, and to be honest, I learned it the hard way. So as an astrologer for myself personally, and if you listen to my guidance, I would say not to actively work with eclipse energy, with your spiritual practices. I'm not saying that you can't still, pray and journal and reflect, but it's more of like an observation type of energy. If anything, like I said, I ground myself. Like, I do very practical tasks. I make sure that I have a really solid routine and sleep schedule. And I'm really listening to my body and grounding myself during eclipse season, because to me personally, I feel like I'm a bit more sensitive to the astrology and what's going on. So if you are like that as well, grounding yourself, doing some, task that can help you feel more centered in your body, such as taking some sort of like herbal bath, or like, just really trying to get grounded in your body and your intuition and make sure what you're observing is making sense. This week is going to bring about a lot of clarity. So the next theme is Pisces season starting. So this is a very sensitive time of year. You might feel like you need more rest. You might even be more connected to your intuition. But let's not forget that Mercury is in detriment in Pisces right now. So your intuition might be a little bit louder. You might be a little bit more sensitive to the emotional states of other people around you. Pisces energy, I like to think of it as an emotional container. So this is a really good time, bringing it back to that eclipse energy I was telling y'all about, like grounding yourself, doing something that makes you feel more connected to your body and your reality. With this Aquarius eclipse, I would even say taking a social media break, organizing your social spaces if you are into making content, and really organizing and getting clear about the community that you or audience that you're trying to get to support your content. But Pisces season starts on Wednesday, the day after the solar eclipse in Aquarius. And Pisces season tends to soften everything around us. People get more emotional, more nostalgic, more intuitive, but it also makes us more tired and more likely to over absorb. Again, Pisces is the emotional container. So make sure you are creating spiritual routines this eclipse season that will ground you, that makes more sense. Doing daily habits that ground you will really help you this eclipse season going into March, because we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo the first week of March. Then we're in this Mercury retrograde energy. So just be more mindful of what you are absorbing for the next month or so. Some practical translations for this Pisces season. Your body will tell the truth faster than your mind, possibly. Your capacity might be lower than usual, or your instincts are strong, but you have no way or nowhere to really ground them. Wait until the spring equinox Aries season, late March, and this Mercury retrograde is over. Jupiter will also be stationed direct in Cancer in March. So, just observe this eclipse season, daily routines that, ground you. I can't stress that enough. Ground yourself in your body, and try not to absorb the media. Pisces energy is that media Hollywood type of energy. So really, I don't want to say avoid the news, but if you can, not really staying plugged in, because I really don't know how this energy is going to manifest, but I can only imagine with all of this energy this week we have in the cosmos, this potent energy, those generational planets forming a conjunction in Aries, and then we have that partial solar eclipse ushering in eclipse season, and then Mercury stations retrograde next week. So really grounding yourself and getting more clear in your daily routines is going to help, if anything, avoiding the news, like I said. So the third theme is the Saturn conjunct Neptune in Aries energy. So this is dream versus reality, and it becomes more obvious. Friday is when this conjunction goes exact. And to be honest, we've been feeling this for about a year. There's a lot of reality checks. Like, I like to think of this conjunction as uh we are the new adults in our lives. Like, we have to make the changes that we want to see in the world. We have to be the change. We have to embody that energy. And that's what Aries is all about, embodying that energy. And with this conjunction talking to Pluto in Aquarius, in some way, it's asking us to call our power back and to really embody the change that we want to see in the world. Like I said, I think of this conjunction as we are the new adults. It also makes me think of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror as well. Like, if you want to make a change, you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. That's this Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries and then Michael Jackson also has that South Node, his second house, in Aries. So it makes a lot of sense to me anyway. But this Saturn and Neptune conjunction at that spring equinox energy in our charts, this is that new chapter. Saturn is all about reality check, structure, commitment, and discipline, while Neptune brings uncertainty and foggy energy, spiritual longing, fantasy, escapism. And when these two meet up in that sign in the sky at 0 degrees, something you hoped for has to become real, or it dissolves. So, practical translations for this Saturn and Neptune conjunction is no more guessing, getting more clear, more grounded in your spiritual practices, and embodying that energy. That's that Aries energy, embodiment. No more just living off of vibes alone, and no more avoiding responsibility for what you want. It can feel a bit sobering, but it's also a powerful shift because it helps us stop wasting our energy. That's the goal for that Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries. Now, how to use this week. Here's the simplest way to use this week without spiraling. pick one of each of the topics that I'm about to list, or name, one relationship or people theme, one money or values theme, and one energy and mental health theme. And that's it. Keep it very simple. Eclipse weeks are not for trying to fix your whole life in one sitting. It's actually probably pulling up a lot and changing a lot in your life. So observations and keeping that theme in mind, what you are noticing, what you need to change about it over time. It's not something that's going to happen all in one night for most of us, or all in one day. So let's get to the day by day breakdown, starting with Monday, February the 16th, the Aquarius Moon forming a conjunction with Mars. And then it's talking, or Mercury is talking to Jupiter retrograding in Cancer. So Mercury in Pisces is forming a trine to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So that the Aquarius Moon Mars activation happens in the afternoon. So this is motivation and agitation. It can look like the urge to detach from something, the urge to finally say what you mean. It can also show up as impatience, irritability, or like, I'm over this type of energy. But the best way to use it is to channel it into one task, one decision, and one boundary. Now, again in the afternoon, early afternoon, is the Mercury in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer retrograding right now, talking supportively, forming that trine. So this is supportive and wise type of energy. It's really good for emotional clarity, supportive conversations, intuitive insights that actually help. It's really good for writing, scripting, voiceovers, and planning if you are a content creator or a teacher. Then later in the evening, we have the moon in Aquarius forming a sextile to Chiron in Aries. So this is a healing moment. It can be a small breakthrough, like, oh, this is why I react to this type of situation like that. It's Chiron in Aries is letting us know our emotional sensitivity wounds around our identity. And honestly, our ego and our drive. So be mindful and cautious of that as well, because this can show up as being really sensitive as well. Even though it is a sextile, it can still show up as being sensitive and potentially taking things the wrong way. So on Monday, watch out for fights just because you feel activated, you feel overstimulated. And use the energy to move forward, not to burn bridges impulsively on Monday. Now, Tuesday is one of the big days of the week. We have the eclipse in Aquarius, and then that Venus and North Node conjunction in Pisces. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She's very comfortable. So Tuesday is the anchor point of the week. When most of us asleep, the moon in Aquarius will form a square to Uranus, and this new moon is actually forming a square to Uranus. So this is like literal plot twist type of energy that's bringing this eclipse season in. It's restlessness, unexpected news, a change of plans, or you might wake up anxious. And honestly, that's not random. That is the energy in the cosmos. And then early in the morning, when most of us are waking up, we have this partial solar eclipse in Aquarius. So this new moon in Aquarius, that's all about friendships, community, future plans, social media, networks, or networking. Also, the collective mood. Aquarius rules collective groupthink or social groupthink. So my eclipse advice is, don't force any big decisions. Don't commit just to relieve some anxiety, and just let the dust settle. Observation is key during eclipse season, in my opinion. Now, later in the evening, we have that Venus and North Node conjunction, which will be opposing the South Node in Virgo. So this is a major relationship and values moment. It can look like, what am I devoted to? Is this love, or is this me trying to save something with that Pisces energy? And that Virgo energy as well. That Pisces Virgo axis is all about like being almost like a martyr, or like trying to like save and help people. And also, am I being too critical, or am I ignoring the truth? Again, that Venus and Pisces axis. Not Venus, Virgo and Pisces axis. Virgo is that critical energy, and Pisces is that delusional ignoring and not really wanting to see the truth about something that might make us uncomfortable. So the best use for this conjunction in with Venus and the North Node in Pisces is to choose compassion with boundaries. Choose the relationship patterns that support growth. Notice what you are repeating over and over. And on Tuesday, honestly, overall, watch out for over idealizing something, emotional spending, that emotional container energy in Pisces. Make sure you're not, absorbing other people's emotions and just make sure you're clear and grounded in your own. Also, romanticizing people or plans in eclipse season, it's easy to see what you want to see, to be honest, with that eclipse energy. So let's move over to Wednesday, February the 18th. This is when we have the sun entering Pisces. The moon is also in Pisces on this day. So Wednesday is a bit softer. It's more emotional and more intuitive. We have Pisces season beginning at the beginning of the day when most of us are headed to work or waking up. And you might feel like you want to stay home. You might feel like you want to rest. You might also need better energetic boundaries in Pisces season. Again, it's the emotional container. So making sure you have boundaries and not absorbing everybody else's stuff around you. Also, you may not feel as productive, but you can be deeply creative during Pisces season. It's the energy of escapism and creativity. So then on Wednesday, we have the moon forming the conjunction with the North Node and opposing the South Node. So this keeps that devotion, the routines, and pattern conversation going from yesterday. And then the moon will conjunct Venus. So this is that tender, romantic, artistic type of soft energy, great for like music, worshiping. It's good for art, prayer, creative work, or really loving conversations. Because you have that emotional container energy, you might be able to empathize better in conversations. And then the moon will form a trine to Jupiter retrograding in Cancer and form a conjunction with Mercury in Pisces. So this is emotional support again, nurturing, family themes, inner child type of comfort, great for journaling, scripting, and intuitive downloads. But watch out, you can drift with that Pisces energy. So make sure you are writing things down and journaling, making sure you are grounding yourself. So Wednesday overall is making sure we don't over absorb other people's emotions around us, what we see in the media. It can also feel heavy, but that heavy energy might not be yours. So make sure you are checking in with your body and getting grounded. This is why earlier in the episode I was saying, daily routines that ground you in your habits, your daily habits, and you can work with them, ground you in your body. Now, Thursday, February the 19th, the moon will shift into Aries, but before it does, it will form a sextile to Uranus in Taurus. So the moon in Pisces will sextile Uranus in Taurus early in the morning when most of us are waking up or going to work. So this is a gentle breakthrough type of energy. It's offering some helpful changes. This can be a surprise and a solution, something that you've been like trying to get a solution about. It can also be emotional release, and realizing what needs to shift within your emotional world or even in your finances, your relationships. This can show up and manifest as we have the moon entering Aries in the afternoon. So our energy, we might get a little bit more energy than we had the day before. And then the moon will form a conjunction with Saturn. So this is getting focused, getting more serious. It's also a very sobering energy. It can manifest as feeling more tired, more heavy. So just be mindful of that. But it can also show up as, okay, now what's the plan? What we need to do? Being more structured, more disciplined, and focused. Now, again, like Saturn and Neptune are both in Aries right now, and they're really, really close. So for the next couple of months, the moon in Aries will conjunct Saturn and then Neptune shortly after. And then for a while, it will conjunct Neptune and then Saturn once Saturn passes that Neptune conjunction. So when the moon forms a conjunction with Neptune, right after feeling that Saturnian energy, like, okay, what I need to do, I need to be more disciplined. That Neptune conjunction can make you feel very sensitive and unclear. It's almost like going from, all right, I have structure, I'm organized, to like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? It's kind of like forgetting. So there might be some clarity and then confusion on Thursday. And then you might have that motivational energy, and then you're like, wait, what was I doing? So that's normal with Saturn and Neptune together. Now, next month, I believe it will feel the opposite. So we'll have some uncertainty, like, oh, I need to be doing something when the moon conjuncts Neptune before it conjuncts Saturn. And then we'll have structure. But for right now, you'll probably feel a bit confused, like, oh, I know what I need to do, and then all of a sudden have some sort of confusion later. That's that Neptune and Saturn conjunction in Aries right now. Again, when Saturn passes Neptune and the moon crosses over these two planets going forward, it'll flip. It'll be the opposite. So you might have uncertainty and then clarity. I hope all of that made sense. So on Tuesday, or not Tuesday, Thursday, we have the moon in Aries forming a sextile to Pluto in Aquarius. So this is powerful for boundaries, cutting cords, and committing to change. Pluto in Aquarius is transformation, calling our personal power back on an individual level. But on Thursday, some things to watch out for is to not confuse a temporary emotional wave for a final answer. Just sit with it, observe it. Now Friday is the big day of the week. We have Saturn conjuncting Neptune in Aries, and it's going exact. So Friday is that big reality check type of day. This is one for the collective. This is a turning point for the collective. It means practically like illusions are dissolving, denial stops working. The dream that you have will need a bit more structure. You have to choose what's real. This can also show up as choosing a more mature approach, seeing the truth of a situation, realizing you can't do it alone, realizing you've been avoiding responsibility for something that you actually want. And again, like I said earlier in this episode, that this conjunction will not just show up and go away. This is something that will manifest over time, especially as the two planets start to separate. You'll start to see more clarity in what this conjunction means for you. Now, another thing that's happening on Friday is that Aries moon forming a square to Jupiter retrograding in Cancer. So emotions can feel big on Friday. You might feel overconfident, then overwhelmed, protective, reactive, easily triggered. So the best way to move with Friday's energy is to slow down and don't overcommit or overextend yourself. With that Jupiter energy, it's very easy to do so. Me personally, I have Jupiter conjunct my Mercury, and I'm always overextending, overcommitting, and that's something that I've been learning to like step out of. It's very easy for me to do it. So be mindful on Friday. It might be easy for you to do it. Watch out for making some permanent decisions from some temporary emotions or intensity, but do listen to what's being revealed. Again, this eclipse season, I can't stress it enough. Observation, observation, observation is key. Now, Saturday, we have the Aries moon talking to Mars in Aquarius and forming a conjunction with Chiron in Aries. And then the moon will move into its exalted sign, which is Taurus. So Saturday starts off hot and then it ends more grounded. That sextile that the Aries moon will be forming to Mars in Aquarius is really good for taking action in something, but use it for one thing and one thing only. Now, the moon in Aries will conjunct Chiron in Aries before entering Taurus. So that Chiron conjunction is really tender. It can show up as old wounds flaring up so that they can be healed. And it's a day to be honest about your triggers. Now, when the moon enters Taurus, things start to slow down. You might want some comfort food. You might even want to go outside. On Saturday, especially now the sun is out later. Um, and where I'm at now, the sun sets after 5. So we'll have some sunlight when the moon moves into Taurus. This might be a good time to take a walk and get some sun on your skin. And then the moon in Taurus will form a sextile to the sun in Pisces. So this is soft support, good for rest and being gentle. But then later in the evening, like literally, probably this is on Saturday. So when most people are probably out hanging out with their friends or something, if you're young, for me, I'm going to be inside. I'm a little auntie, I'm an old lady. But later in the evening, the moon in Taurus will form a square to Pluto in Aquarius. So power themes can pop up. Things around control, fear, money anxiety, even obsession. So if you feel that, return to the basics, grounding yourself in your body, breath work, and being more present in the moment. Now, Sunday, we have Mars in Aquarius forming a sextile to Chiron in Aries. And then that Taurus moon offering steady support. So Sunday is practical support. With that Mars in Aquarius sextile and Chiron in Aries, this is one of the best take action on healing type of days. It's not just about talking about it, it's actually doing and applying it differently. And then the Taurus moon talking to the North and the South Node, Jupiter and Venus. This is supportive for routines and stabilizing our choices, finding comfort and steady emotional support, along with some soft love and really being around your loved ones or even to yourself. So the best way to use Sunday's energy is to reset your body and your environment so you're not dragging chaos into the next week, especially after this week. Not sure how this might manifest for all of us, but Sunday is a really good day to get grounded and to work on those grounding routines for this eclipse season. So that's your week. That is the collective read for the week, a collective reset, a sensitivity shift, and a reality check that pushes us into a new era. So if this forecast helped you, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening to this podcast. I post weekly updates, and make sure you drop a comment and tell me if you've got any placements near 28 degrees Aquarius, 0 degrees Aries, or 9 degrees Pisces, because that's where this week is going to be the loudest. So I love you guys, and until next week, peace.